Perfect. Well, thank you everybody for jumping on today. My name is Mike Condon. I'm the Vice President of Franchise Development here at HomeWell, and excited today to be talking with Bruce Dincin. Bruce is an owner with us out of the Rockville, Maryland area. Joined HomeWell back in November of 2020, if my math is correct, almost just over coming up on 3 years now. So Bruce, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day. Really would love to just start at the beginning, like we always do. Talk us through a little bit about your decision of why franchising, and why ultimately did you choose HomeWell?
Okay. So I'll try not to make the journey too long, but it did start a while ago. I was in corporate America for a long time and I liked it. It was a good company. I felt like they treated me well. Two things happened, I don't know, 2015 to 17. My father passed away and he used to run a psychiatric rehabilitation center in Chicago. And I knew he did a great job and it was wonderful. It was a nonprofit and they were really helping people. But I went to his memorial and so many people just spoke who worked for him and with him and other people and some of the people at the psychiatric rehabilitation had severe mental health issues, but they even spoke years ago, and it kind of made me start thinking like, what's going on? I want to do a little bit more with my life. And then at a similar time frame, my wife's grandmother had catastrophic stroke. She needed 24/7 care, and I could really tell by the caregivers it really impacted her mood. And so those two things kind of came together, and it really made me think, well, I want to do something else besides for corporate America. And it was around that time I started searching for, these types of things, but also I was looking at regular franchises. Could I, McDonald's, fast food, is there, things just to kind of make money. And I had some conversations with folks at HomeWell, and they weren't selling me on it at all, but it seemed to make a lot of sense, right? In terms of the mission of HomeWell, what they wanted to do, and there was a sense of security when I was thinking about McDonald's or other places, that are they going to go out of fashion? If it's a smash burger, all of a sudden smash burger is not going to be popular if it's a cleaning service. But people are aging, they need help, and it felt like a little bit of a secure place. And then at the same time, I didn't have any experience in care. And the folks at HomeWell, I was pretty familiar with their model because I knew some of the folks at HomeWell. And the model is really to train people, hold their hand, and they want you to blossom. And
Yeah.
that's what, and they were really straightforward also. They were like, look, it's going to be a lot of hard work. It's not like you're just going to put on TV commercials and then they're all going to come to your site. It's a lot of kind of hand-to-hand combat, if you will, and a lot of elbow grease. And that all appealed to me, right? It's like what you put into it, you'll get out. So kind of those four factors began me on my journey.
So what was your corporate career prior to this? Like what did you do? What kind of background did you have?
So I was in marketing. I worked at a lot of big companies. I was at American Express for many years. And then I was in hospitality for many, many years. And it was mostly in marketing and media. And, and I really liked it. To me, marketing is really about the strategy and getting things done. But also when I was in the hospitality world, it was always interesting because we were talking about, okay, we have all these plans, but they need to be executed, on site. And I wanted a little bit more control over that execution. Now I have more control, but it's still the caregivers who have the
Yeah.
ultimate control. So there's still that other step. But so that's generally it. And I was, again, I handled some pretty large media budgets that were national, and my specialty was really measuring those and finding out the ROI on those with some, regression analysis, blah, 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 blah. And I thought I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to take that and I'll do it. But it's much different on a local level. And
Yeah.
I found out I didn't really know what I was doing.
So as well, I think you figured it out pretty
I
nicely
did. I
as you've grown. So you came in with no healthcare experience, which is not uncommon in this space.
right.
So the training for you, how did you feel it went? Like, what were some of the good and some of the challenges, maybe from somebody that doesn't have a healthcare background, that you noticed as you went through the I'll call it the learning curve of learning a healthcare type business?
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because, my wife was she was a little nervous about the whole thing, and I was pretty committed to it. And, we have a healthy relationship and communication, but she was pretty like, well, what's going on? And then the training was going to be in person, and then it was in during COVID, so it was, via Zoom.
Mhm.
And my wife was able to listen in on it. And after that, she was just like sold 100% in. And I think a lot of that was with Michelle
Mhm.
Cohen. She gives just a great overview. She really starts at the beginning and takes you through, I think it is, 5 full days in terms of the industry, what you need to do, the terms. It still takes a while to learn all those things and understand them. So I don't know if it's challenges like, other people, if you come in and you're a nurse or a caregiver, I think you're a couple steps ahead, but you're not so far ahead. It was pretty easy to catch up, and some of
Okay.
it, it took a while, but the training was just helpful from beginning to end. And the most important thing was it got my wife on board. So
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you brought up a good point. I think when you make a big decision, a career changing and life changing decision like you did, Bruce, it's important to have your spouse or partner, whoever that may be, on board with that because it does affect you at home. And I think, as people go through the education process of buying a franchise and talking with us here at HomeWell, one of the things we try to reiterate to them is have your spouse on as many calls as they can, even if they're not going to be a part of it, because I think that communication at home only helps with the comfort level that when you do decide to do a business and hopefully within HomeWell that you have that support at home because that's that as you know and I know it's ever ongoing from
yeah,
that side.
yeah,
Um,
for sure. And it is
yeah.
much different. I mean, my wife she's responsible for the user design for Marriott.com. So she works at the headquarters, right?
Okay.
And there's a lot of challenges in working in corporate America, et cetera, but it's a different set of challenges when you open your own business and the things that go into that. So I think it was helpful for her to get on board and also on board with the mission.
Yeah, yeah. So you decide to make the jump and do it. I always love to ask this, like, what was that feeling? Because it's so much of what we talk about. The hardest part about deciding to do it is not deciding to do it, but actually executing the doing part. So, when you decided to jump and sign and kind of go into that next phase, like I know that's probably a weird question, but it's something that's a real question and we talk about it a lot. So talk to me like how were you feeling at that moment? Were you terrified? Were you excited, terrified? What did that feel like when you decided to finally sign on the dotted line?
Mike, I wish it was like a layup and I would just be like, oh my God, it was exciting. It was, from the time that I signed until the time that I got my license. So in Maryland, it took a while. So there's like a lot of paperwork. So yes, I was excited and yes, I was a little bit nervous, but there was also all sorts of life events going on. And so I don't know. Maybe it was just like I was pushing it a little bit, and then COVID. So there were a lot of things. It
Yeah,
was a little bit different, but I was certainly very excited. But I was also just very committed to it. I was
yeah,
like, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to make it successful. And that's so it was. I don't know. It might have been determined, right? That might have been my mindset. Like I'm determined. All these other things, I'm not going to get too excited. I'm not going to be nervous. I'm gonna get it done. So
yeah, yeah. That's a good way to put it. And to your point, coming in during COVID and there was a lot of stuff going on in the world. And congratulations on persevering through that. And it obviously has worked out well. So you get your business open. In the very beginning, what was your structure like? What was the structure of your organization? Because that's something again, it kind of varies depending on the person. But for you, what did that look like?
Yeah, it started off very small. In Maryland, you need to have a registered nurse. And so I had a registered nurse that was part-time, and you could imagine finding a registered nurse during COVID. It was challenging. And then I had an administrator. And it was, she was a little bit jack of all trades, scheduling and administration, and we were kind of standing up the business. But from my point of view, and I don't want to, I don't know exactly what the HomeWell point of view might be a little bit different, but I wanted to be pretty lean in the beginning,
Mhm.
right? Keep expenses down and then grow as necessary and when needed. Maybe not when needed, a little bit before, try to anticipate those needs, but I kept it pretty lean. I wanted to roll up my sleeves. And for me, the best way to understand a business and to be an active owner is to really be an active owner. I wanted to do a lot. And then I pretty quickly hired a salesperson, but the salesperson, it was really challenging because it was hard to go into facilities at that time. Even when COVID died down a little bit, they were pretty nervous about that.
Yeah, yeah. What does it look like today? So you're 3 years in or so. What does your organizational structure look like today?
So there's myself, I'm still pretty active. There's a full-time scheduler. There's a full-time HR person, but it's really more kind of the admin of the HR as opposed to, the rules of HR. And then I have an intake. It's kind of a hybrid of a lot of things where we work as a team and we all kind of work around, but it's kind of a care manager who is also doing some staffing and some client stuff. And then there's a salesperson who's also doing some care management. And then the nurse who is not quite full time, but certainly more hours than in the beginning. And I'm looking to hire another nurse and then a full time salesperson. And I need more help. And there'll probably be one more person. So.
Yeah. So as you've grown, do you feel like the support, I guess, from the franchisor side, from our side, and specifically more maybe your franchise business coach, how have they played a part in helping you understand your growth, your structure, and as you've continued to grow, how we can help support you more?
Yeah, my FBC, me a while there, franchise business coach, FBC,
It's all same.
is really excellent, and he's been very helpful. Again, and I don't want to kind of holding my hand. We were meeting weekly, and as needed, whenever, and then every other. He's just always available. He's got a lot of experience, and we talk a lot about the organizational structure and anticipating needs. Now, in the beginning, the first year, a lot of the stuff was, I'm just like in the weeds, and they're very helpful in terms of the operations. What do I do? Who do I contact? They're not doing it for me, but kind of pointing me in the right direction or getting me the right answer, kind of connecting the dots for me. And then that's grown in terms of more of a strategic role and talking. So yeah.
So it's valuable.
Without putting words in my mouth, Mike, yes, it's
Yeah.
very
Okay. Good.
valuable.
Good. Good. Yeah. Well, again,
He's really good. He's very helpful, and yeah, it's been very valuable
yeah.
in terms of again. It Sorry, I didn't mean don't want this to come. Yes, sometimes if he's
No.
anticipating my needs and helping
Yes.
me, it is very valuable, and in terms of the experience and connecting, and also a good thing that he really does is he's able to see things across the network of HomeWell
Yeah.
and connecting me with other owners or other, let's say, person who's in charge of operations in Cincinnati or the person who's in charge of sales in New Jersey. And, when we hired our new salesperson, he connected me with a really great HomeWell owner in New Jersey. And we went up there for a couple of days. So, he's able to really see the big picture and help out and connect those dots.
Yeah, and I joke because I do feel they're very valuable, at least from my perspective, and we talk. But again, I think value lends itself in a couple of different ways to you as an owner, and I tongue in cheek that a little bit, but I think to your point, it's you know their role is there to need when you need it, and I hope that's kind of where I was going with that. So, um, you know. As of recently, you're expanding, which is awesome, from a number of territories. So, why now? Why do you feel it's the right time for you to continue to grow? And more importantly, like the opportunity it looks like from your perspective is there to continue to grow. But walk me through the thought process around, hey, now is a really good time for us to continue to grow this business model in our market.
I every time I drive around and every time I meet with someone, it just feels like there's opportunity everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, it's just growing. I mean, Montgomery County, where I live, is right outside of DC. And then on the other side, we call it the other side of the river, is Virginia, it's Northern Virginia. And there, there's just opportunity everywhere. There's a different HomeWell owner in Virginia. And to me, it's like I don't want to see the opportunity pass me by, um, because it's just endless, right? And where I was going with this is there's a lot of competition in Montgomery County. The other owners of other agencies, they're good. We're competitors, but we're not competitive. I think that's part of the industry. And we don't really bump into each other that much. And when I see that we're not bumping into each other, it just means that there is a lot of it's opportunity.
Yeah.
So to me, it's that's the key thing. And I feel like, I've kind of got my feet underneath me. The operations, although not perfect, are good enough to move into a different territory. There are challenges because Washington, D.C. is a different state than
Mhm.
Maryland, but I'll get through.
Yeah, that and you bring up a great point about competition. Because again, that's something that comes up all the time as people are learning about the opportunity. There's a lot of competition, and I think you probably see that. But do you feel that you are hindered? Obviously, you don't feel that your growth is hindered because of competition. Just like it's crazy to me in this industry that you're not dog eat dog. It's not like that, and I think that's one thing it's hard to explain to people. But how do you work with your competitors? Because I know that's kind of common too in this industry. Or is it you just don't see them and you just do your business and you're continuing to grow?
Well, they were pretty helpful and still are, right? I'm a member, I'm on the board of something called GROWS, which is basically any service that services the elder care agents, elder care people in Montgomery County. So there's a lot of in-home care agencies on there, and we're just friendly. I've had lunch with them, you talk to them about other things. And again, the competition might be more from private caregivers, people who aren't affiliated with agencies, but we're not really bumping into each other. And having said that, I made a pretty conscious decision. I spoke with a lot of other companies, and I like HomeWell's model. I like their heart. I think they HomeWell walks the walk, whatever the term is. Whereas
Mhm.
I kind of felt like the other ones, some of the other big ones, it felt like the corporate world where it was just a little bit of kind of BS. And so, I like the idea that HomeWell was holding my hand and helping me, where some of the others, it's a little bit like, hey, this is who we are. Hopefully you're successful. If you're not, we'll buy back your territory. And I kind of get that, in talking with um, the other owners in terms of, their relationship and their relationship with their other franchisees, that are nearby.
Yeah.
That,
So again, challenges that come up in the business. To you, what do you see as the biggest challenge? Obviously, staffing caregivers is talked about a lot. But in your perspective, what do you feel is the biggest challenge to that will hinder you from continuing to grow?
yeah, I don't, we're, the issue isn't finding caregivers. The issue is finding good caregivers.
Mhm.
The challenges are pretty hard Some of them are going to be hard to solve because there's we have really good caregivers, right? We have really great caregivers. And then if you have someone that comes in and they just want 4 hours a day, 3 days a week, and they want the best caregiver, well, the best caregiver doesn't want to work 4 hours
Yeah.
a day, 3 days a week. And it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that it's hard to give consistency. So the challenges, I guess, are more internal. I got to figure out a little bit, no matter what, a caregiver is going to want an 8 hour shift versus two 4 hour shifts. And it's figuring that out. And, so those are some of the challenges, but, those are the main things. And then it's, I don't know. I think those are kind of the main challenges that we have are really good caregivers delivering the care and service that we speak about. And
Yeah.
but we've been doing well.
Yeah, obviously you guys have continued to grow, and you guys have a huge future ahead of you. So
Yeah.
as we kind of wrap up in order to keep you on track here, and we appreciate again your time today, Bruce. Do you have any advice for somebody that's looking to get into this business, that you would share with them, that if they're deciding whether or not they should get into this? Do you have any advice for them on that front?
I mean, if you're deciding it's a mission driven passion, right? And your best caregivers are going to be mission driven, the ones who, yeah, they want to get paid and they deserve to get paid, but it needs to be somewhat in your heart. And I'd say that's the same thing as an owner. Yeah, I want to, this is a business. I do want to make money and I am making money, but you do have to have, somewhat of a passion in there. Um, and when you do it, it really works out. And even on the worst days, you can kind of come back and say, I've done good today. And it makes you feel good in terms of what you're doing. So,
Yeah. And that's what we're about, especially matching that passion to want to deliver great care into your community, but also the passion on the other side to run a really good business, provide a lot of jobs,
yeah.
and really to help, when you go to bed at night, I've done really good overall, and feel good about what you do. So with that, Bruce, thank you so much for joining today. There are a couple questions. We can get to those after we wrap up here.